I'm Rob Fernandez. I work as a senior facial mocap technician at Gearbox Software. Been there 6 years. I'll probably be there for an indefinite amount of time because I love it. My Twitter is Bandito Fernando.
Okay, when did you first play like Borderlands? Every time I talk to really anyone who works on these games, they're always having merch of these games. Like you're wearing your Borderlands shirt right now, and I feel like every time, even people who have since left the company, I will always find them in their Gearbox and 2K stuff. And I'm like, there's such a love for the franchise, and I feel like most people I've talked to played the games before they came onto the games.
I first played Borderlands. Well, going back, you are correct. I was a huge Borderlands fan before I joined. I first played Borderlands 1 in 2010. A year after it came out.
Yeah, an OG.
I remember seeing the trailers for it on TV in like 2008, 2009, whenever that was.
Yeah.
And then in 2010, there was a 4-pack for sale on Steam. And it was like play with your friends. And one of my friends in high school, he surprised me and three of him, like he bought it for him and three of our friends. And he was like, "Hey, I bought this for us. Let's play it. It looks fun."
I love that. They should do more sales like that. That's a brilliant idea for Steam sale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I haven't like back in like the early like 2000 or sorry the late 2000s. I would always see those like 4-pack play with friends, but I don't really see that much anymore. Because I like without that, I probably wouldn't have played Borderlands just because like it wasn't on my radar at the time.
It wasn't on mine either. I was pretty late to it. Like I talk a lot. I was really into gaming as like a child. Like I grew up on the PS1, PS2, like that kind of stuff. And then around I was in high school when Borderlands 1 came out. It just been off my radar, and I wasn't like on modern consoles. And the Wii was so big, and everyone was like focused on this kind of stuff. I didn't see it really ever. And I remember seeing a poster for Borderlands 2 when I was getting my first 360, and I went in and got, it was like a shitty one, like refurb from GameStop that didn't have Wi-Fi. Like it was truly like one of the jankiest ones I could have gone, but I just wanted to be able to like say I had an Xbox and play Xbox games because I was always on PlayStation and get back into it. And I remember seeing a Borderlands 2 poster and still not clocking at the time, but I was like, oh, I feel like I've seen that places, and I couldn't place it. But now like, if I could go back and something like that, I've been like, hey, play this with me. That's the only way I think I would have gone into it at the time, because I just totally missed it in the heyday of it, and I so wish I had that experience.
It was really special. I mean, especially for me, because like I feel like the first thing anyone ever really says about the first Borderlands is that intro animation.
So good.
It was just like, looking back at it now, it is one of the simplest. Like you can tell they threw it together at the final second to make it work. But I remember watching that when I don't even know how old I was. I was in high school too. And I was like, wow, like, holy crap, this is amazing. It introduced me to Cage the Elephant, which I feel like is a lot of people. It's for like a lot of gamers know that. I'll be honest, the first one does get boring. I still haven't finished Borderlands 1.
I drag the first one like it's a religion sometimes. Like I love it for what it did, but it doesn't have a story. It remembers it has a story later. It just wasn't the point of the game, I feel like. And I'm so grateful for it in its time, but that's why I wish I had it back then. And like, that was my first experience of it, because I feel like I would have such a more nostalgic kind of love for it. Because there's so many janky games and old games that I go back to all the time because I have the nostalgia factor to it. And I didn't play Borderlands 1 before I played Borderlands 2. And I feel like it's such a upgrade, like UI wise, and just clearly story is just like more fleshed out, and it just gives it room to breathe there. I wish I had the nostalgia for Borderlands 1 that I do for the other games.
Yeah, it's nice having that nostalgia both for BL1 and for BL2. I'm actually looking at my Steam history. I bought Borderlands 2 October 5th, 2013.
Oh my god, I love it. Oh my god.
It was $10. That's a good sale.
That's a great sale.
And so that was a couple months after I started college. And I remember my freshman year, I would just sit in one of the lounges on my really mediocre laptop I had at the time, playing on like the lowest quality graphics, just
Yeah.
playing Borderlands 2 with my friends. Um, and little did I know that like 5 years from then, I would be working on Borderlands 3,
It
which
was
is sort
that
of
quick
crazy
for you.
to,
That's amazing. That is crazy to think
yeah.
about. Yeah, looking back at those, I have so many of those, like with script writing and stuff, where it's one of the my first spec script was this, and then I got hired on this show, kind of feeling where it's like, how did this get so full circle for a minute?
Hmm.
But like even that timeline, did you know what you wanted to do at that time? Like freshman in college, I like that's such you're in such a specific, hyper specific career too. That was
Hmm.
that on your radar at all? Was it I always want to work for Gearbox or I want to work in games, or did you stumble into it?
So so honestly, I would always forget about Gearbox, but I did start my freshman year as a game design major
Oh,
at my
sick.
university. So yeah, I went in like literally I had never taken an art class or anything before in my life. Never learned how to do anything. Like first semester was like, okay, let's learn Photoshop,
Fuck
like a little
yeah.
bit of Autodesk Maya, and like really like learn the basics. Um, and at that time I honestly I went in I wanted to be like a modeler. I wanted to like make 3D models for games because I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool. And then the more I did it, I was like, wow, I really suck.
I'm awful
And
at it. I've the little I've tried, I'm awful at it. I respect
mhm.
it the hell out of it. Cannot do it.
And it's funny because everything that I tried, it always came to the conclusion of, wow, I really suck at this. I was like, I'm gonna be an animator. I want to go work for Pixar, and then I would try to animate, and I was like, ooh, yeah, this is bad. And like comparing mine to like everyone else's, I was like, ooh, yeah, no, my stuff looks like a 5-year-old made it.
Oh no.
Um, so I guess what I do at Gearbox, I work in mocap,
Yeah, yeah.
motion capture. I found that that was a third term sophomore year class that my university offered that
They
all the
had
game
a
design
mocap
majors had.
class. That's
Yeah,
really fucking
so
cool.
my university had a mocap class. They have a mocap stage. It's a
Okay.
really good motion capture stage. It still blows my mind that they have a stage, but my coworker, the other senior, one of the other seniors on the Gearbox mocap team, he went to my university, did mocap near the end of it. I sort of when I started mocap there, it was sort of a dying thing. Like two people did it.
Really?
And yeah, like everyone sort of viewed mocap as like the fake animation because everyone, like every student, I guess, that wants to do animation goes into school thinking like, oh, like I'm gonna be a Pixar animator
Yeah. Yeah.
and like I'm gonna hand animate everything. Everything will be keyframed. And I think what people don't realize is that more and more motion capture is literally just used everywhere because it's such a huge stepping stone. It's like playing it's like having a handicap, but it's like the handicap is like, oh, like you don't have to crunch and die.
Yeah, yeah. No, and that's the thing. I remember I think it was and this is so embarrassing of me because I, working in film and things that weren't just hyper realistic also used mocap. And so I remember it was Until Dawn on the PS4 that it first like blew my mind and I registered like the different layers that go into that. And clearly like Last of Us and Beyond Two Souls and anything that was coming around the time. But I remember Until Dawn specifically, I was so impressed by the realism and the humanity in it. And it's one of my favorite games. I have a very soft spot for that game. But no, it was the first one that made me go like, oh, this is something like I can do, which is like embarrassing talking about like you starting college and like knowing game design something, animator something, like trying to find that like spot. It didn't occur to me until literally my 30s that I could have been writing games because I've written pilots about game design companies and studios and game like
Mhm.
I've written content around this and it's been on reels before of like, yeah, this is a type of like character I've done before and like things like that. It did not occur to me that like people do this and that was a path you could do at a point. I was like, oh, because I learned to code back on MySpace and I was like playing around with animation then and it was just hobbies and like interests. Like what people do is cool to me. I want to learn how to do that. Not that that was an actual availability. So I think it's so cool that you like had a college that not only specialized in that but could go, but the fact that they had a mocap stage because now I feel like mocap is very, people Borderlands is a good one for me because people who really love the hyperrealism are very like they won't get into the Borderlands art style. Like they say that's like holding them
Mhm.
back. But I think it's fascinating to me that the art style of something like Borderlands and then that marriage with that mocap it just elevates it so much. It elevates it so much. And I didn't really realize until I think it was BL3 that I was just like, oh, this actually really does enhance so many characters and opportunities in these beats and these moments that I always imagine older games would benefit from if they had that facelift. And again, like what people have been doing through the years is impressive as fuck. Like we come from very basic video games and stuff like that too. Now everything is, hyper realistic and everything's boring now, or it's not hyper realistic enough, and we always have this fight about it. But like every time I see a new advancement of it, I'm just like, the way they get teeth now, even, like, it's just so cool to me. Like it's just always
a good example for me with that hyper realism and that, like, the Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer. When I saw that trailer, like the first like 5 seconds, I had to pause and I was like, is this a game? And like I went back to the beginning, watched it again, and I was like, okay, like this is gonna be something cool. And it's cool because, like, I remember one of the first games I played as a kid on my PlayStation 2 was Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Hell yeah, I still have mine.
Bless my parents for buying that for me when I was in 6th grade. Or no, I was in like elementary school. And I remember when that came out, I was like, this is like so realistic. I remember like calling my dad into my bedroom being like, look at how realistic this looks.
Oh, that was me with SSX Tricky. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God, look at this detail. Look at the snow. Like, it was just blowing my mind.
And you look at it now and it's like, wow, this is garbage. It's not garbage. It doesn't
It's a
age.
product of its time. Yeah. It's like, I can go back and watch Monsters Inc., speaking of Pixar, and be like, I remember even as a child, and this is the neurodivergence, but it was shocker, plot twist. But it was the hair on Sully in Monsters Inc., and just the idea of it being animated strain by strain, and seeing like in the bit where he gets a snowball thrown at him and you see how it lays on it. I was fascinated by that as a kid. It was the coolest, newest thing. Like the fact they could do that, and like how much of that taken and looks so real. And now looking at it, I'm aware like, no, this looks like an older animated movie, but it's still so advanced. Like Incredibles, all this stuff, like it just still looks so specific in advance for what they were doing. And those will hold up. But yeah, so many of the games I go back to where I was just like, the jump between like the first Harry Potter PS1 game and the first, PS2 like Chamber of Secrets game, I was like, the jump between there, mind blown. The like when Laura Croft started getting round boobs, mind blown. Absolutely insane. The realism, insane. And so yeah, I GTA 6 definitely, I thought part of it was footage for a minute. Like I knew it wasn't, but I was like with Remedy and like Alan Wake 7, like maybe it's like maybe it's a blend, and like the Florida Man thing. I was like, no, this is just gorgeous animation.
Yeah, it's insane. Like I have a lot of friends on the Rockstar Mocap team. One of the guy who was my mentor all throughout college, he helped me get to where I am today. He's a supervisor / manager over on the Rockstar Mocap team.
Sick.
And since like my university has put six recent graduates all onto their motion capture team. My university sort of has become like known for mocap, but it's been really cool to, I would say, talk to people about the game, but honestly, no one has ever talked to me about the game because Rockstar's NDA is really, really strict.
Yeah.
I mean, for good reason, because they, in my opinion, they're like the top game studio in the world. GTA, I mean, Grand Theft Auto is always like, oh, it's gonna be the best selling game of all time. Everyone knows it.
Yeah, I mean, it's still in one of the top categories on Twitch, and it's an old game now. Like people are still playing. Granted, they are appeal to, but it's different.
Money.
It does. Like, it really does. Between GTA RPs and I still have San Andreas. I still have Vice City. I still have 3. I think I may even still have the disc for 2. And it's just, I'll rebuy it when I see them. I'm like, well, maybe I don't have it on PC. I don't remember. Did they port it on PC? I still have it on my PlayStation. Maybe I want the digital. Like, I always will talk myself into, like, a new version of it. Or, like, I need it somewhere else. Because, like, in case I ever lose a disc. Because it was just such a formative game. Like, I remember the radio stations blowing my mind.
Oh, yeah.
That was the coolest thing.
There are still songs to this day that, like songs will come on and I'll like remember areas in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and I'm like, okay, like this was 20 years ago when it came out, but I still like have those like vivid memories of the radio stations because like the radio stations just bring so much life to it.
They really
Um,
do. They really do. And a lot of games have like followed that, but soundtracks in general, I think, are important. Like the KG Elvin clearly talking about Borderlands, like so many people know that.
mhm.
But the one I feel like people sleep on is the Tales from the Borderlands soundtrack. Because that one
Oh
is
yeah.
just like fucking iconic. Like busy earning great. But that intro with Kiss the Sky, just that whole sequence of like the shoe coming off his sock with that music and like it is how I felt with like the Borderlands one, kind of like, oh, this is something special. Like I was so sold the first time playing Tales.
Hmm.
I feel like I even got emotional watching it, and I didn't have the deep love, like obsession, whatever, permanent limb about Borderlands at this point. But it was just one of those things where I just saw it so clearly, and it was. I don't know. It was just such a feat. And it's between soundtracks and then like the little details of those animations that really, really will make or break if a game does that thing where it gets a brainworm where 20 years later I'm going to remember what
Yeah.
I felt like and what it looks like.
New Tale. I'm sorry, not New Tales. Original Tales. I didn't actually play that until what was it? Until I was in a meeting, one of the original meetings about New Tales starting development.
Yeah.
Because so I focus on the face mocap at Gearbox. Well, I'm in charge of face mocap, but I do all of mocap. It's sort of we're a really small team, so
Mm-hmm.
we all wear the
Bunch
same
of hats.
hats.
Yeah.
And after that meeting, I was like, you know what? Like, if I'm gonna work on this game, I should probably play the first Tales. And I remember I like that intro cinematic for episode one is just so iconic. It's so good. Like
It's so good.
it's so Borderlands. Like I love it. The music
Yes.
fits. And there's something about like music like you can tell when certain songs are meant to be in certain games. Like I feel like
Oh yeah.
Borderlands, the intros are always like like it's this huge epic song, but at the start they're like very like small or like low
Hmm.
and like but then they build up to it. So I mean the music for that, honestly, all the songs in Tales just fit
Yeah.
so well.
Tales for me felt really the original Tales felt like such a love letter to the franchise. And that's what I always tell people when they come in. They're like, they have it's a Telltale game, which I fucking love Telltale. I love so many of their games. They're some of my
Hmm.
most played. Um, but and I think it's like a masterclass of storytelling in a lot of ways. But so many people who just play the shooters or just haven't played that type of choice-based game will come in and they clearly have skipped it and they'll talk about it. And I will convince them every time. I'm like, if you love Borderlands, you will love Tales. Or also, if you've never played a shooter and you're intimidated by it, play Tales first. It will get you into Borderlands because it so perfectly captures, in my opinion, like the atmosphere and the feeling of those games.
Hmm.
And all the good parts of it, and it lets you really dive deep in a lot of ways that two didn't get to because it what it is. These are looter shooters. They don't get to have that kind of exploration in that way, just mechanically in that. And TPS leans into it a little bit, but yeah, there's just something about how that was done. And even I remember the intro for Fiona and Reese, like the punch in the face and the title cards and everything like that.
Yeah.
They captured the absurdity and the tongue in cheek humor of it so well, but it will make you cry. Like episode 5 makes me cry. It just
Hmm.
and the scene that gets me is in if you remember in episode 2 or episode 2 when you have the choice to trust Jack or trust Fiona, and when you trust Jack and it turns into like that symphony where they're like conducting together basically, and it's just that
Yeah.
whole cinematic and that swell of music and all that, it is so, because you're right, it does its soft little build and then it just like overwhelms you, and it is so cool from just like a directing actual visual standpoint that I'm like, this feels like the canon choice for me because it's funny as Fiona's is, and I love it. Like that just is such a clear, beautiful image. And I imagine
Hmm.
making something like that on that side of it, like it, you have to have those layers in mind. Like, and that's I yell all the time about like people who make projects, are usually love the project that they're working on. Like it's that build something like a game for me, I feel like would really you you have to understand the story to do it well. You have to understand the intention of like those little shots. And so I'm really curious in how mocap you feel like that, especially now with so much being, reliant on it now. Like I every game I feel
Hmm.
like how does that blend into like that storytelling? Like do you get a lot of the story before, or do you come in, or are you directing with that, or is it the technical side that makes you really excited about it? Like what part of the
So
process, yeah, lights it up?
the story. I mean, I'm one of the few departments besides like I well like departments like tech or like tech art or like art or animation, like gameplay animation, like they don't really need to know the full story of the game.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
mocap, like with Borderlands 3 is a really good example. Like when we were working on the cinematics for that game, it was always sort of just like a goosebump experience, like working on a franchise as loved as Borderlands, but also making that like making the game that everyone had been asking for, and sort of sitting there on the mocap stage being like, huh, like I know like the entire story of this game. I know like every little thing inside and out. I knew things that were cut that we had recorded. I knew a lot of things that were cut, but I mean that's just game design at that
It's
point.
Kill Your Darlings, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's just like it brought me a lot of joy. It brought me a lot of happiness, sort of being able to see that story and where it was so far in advance, and being like, okay, like this cutscene here is going to be really intense in game, because whenever we record a cinematic, we try to find music or ambience that sort of fits that, like what we're recording. So like it's not the final music, but it's close enough to that final music where we're like, okay, it's like super intense, like,
Yeah, yeah.
or like that you can sort of just like feel the emotions, especially when you have like the really good actors that we've been able to source for our games. Like it feels so real, and it just like it feels like something's actually happening, but actually you're just looking out in a big open room and there's nothing there except like a bunch of boxes and other small things here and there. Um, and stuff like that is really when I have to commend motion capture actors for, because like they're able to bring all of this emotion and all of this like they they understand what they're doing. Like our main mocap actor is a huge like for like when on Borderlands 3, our mocap actor was a huge Borderlands 2 fan. So like he knew what he was doing, and he knew like, okay, like I'm helping just as much as like the animators, or like the writers. Like it's up to like just having that understanding of really everyone knowing, like while we're shooting, like, okay, like it really is a group thing to bring this to life.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's enjoyable.
No, I absolutely imagine, because it's such a unique part of the process. I feel like that again, most people just when they imagine making games would not think about that, but it is
Mhm.
such a intimate part of it, because you do need to know what you're conveying and probably being able to see it birth from that, like knowing it so far in advance. And it's Josh, your composer was on recently, and we were talking about that, where it's just like so far in advance, you know what beats you have to work through, because it's like being able to do that as you go and adapt that and change that. Seeing that the whole way through the process is probably something that not a lot of departments have that overlap, because people are so focused on their own part of the
Mhm.
puzzle. But being able to adapt to that with the actors on it, like I remember I think it was the first Last of Us, when they released a lot of their behind the scenes mocap kind of acting footage, and I couldn't stop watching it, and I went on a rabbit hole
Yeah.
for like Death Stranding and everything else, because it's just the the fascination, like the power behind, these like ridiculous, outfits that we're in, and like doing that, and the dots over the face. But you see people just like, you feel these emotions in this big empty room. And the Quarry was like that for me, watching a lot of the behind the scenes. It requires so much trust, I feel like, between the tech, the team, the actor, the script, like every step of the way. Because I believe it was New Tales that one of the actors told me was over 1,000 pages. And that
New.
blows my fucking mind. Blows my fucking mind. And that's a long
Mhm.
partnership you then have with the actors, let alone everyone else.
Yeah. I wish I got to work on New Tales more. I sadly only got to work on the first vertical slice of it, but even that, it was like 10 minutes, and the amount of dialogue and everything that was recorded for 10 minutes worth of gameplay is just insane. Because I mean, you have that branching narrative and everything, and like people really forget like how much goes into it. You're like you pick one path and you're like, okay, cool, 10 minutes, but then there's like 40 minutes of other stuff buried in the game files that you just didn't touch, that you may and Nick never see, but other people may see. It's cool, and especially for a cinematic driven game like that, it's just those actors do become like those characters. It's sort of like it's like what's his name? Daniel Radcliffe being Harry
Yeah.
Potter.
Yeah. He's very much, you look at him, and I will see him in every other role now he does. He's worked his ass off to be other people, but he's he's Harry Potter. Like, you look at Daniel Radcliffe,
Mhm.
and which as an actor sucks, but also great. Like, would you rather be known for such an
Yeah.
iconic role and still be working? You know, it's a that catch-22 of it. But I mean, I think that's a fascinating thing of both using actors that are the voice actors bring them to life, but also then mocap actors for so much of it, because it's, I feel like, would be a very different experience, but I think probably more valuable for the game that way too. Like, do you normally work with just, you know, mocap actors on that side, since this isn't the more hyper realistic game, or do you tend to work with more of the voice actors at that point to bridge those cinematics?
So at Gearbox, we really have only ever worked with mocap like actors. Um, I've worked with like the voice actors during Borderlands 3. I like recorded their faces in the VO booth and whatnot. Um, but yeah, on the mocap, like on the body mocap side, it's
Hmm.
always been like people that are totally separate from those voice actors that are able to bring those characters to life. But I mean, the ones we have, I mean, since we're in Texas and Dallas, we don't have like it's not like we're in LA where we can
Yeah,
go out on a street corner and be like, okay, who wants
we
to
need an
act in this
actor.
video game?
Yeah.
Like we've had to do some like pretty intense casting just to find like actors that, it's sad to say, actors that will honestly, for like they know that like, oh, I'm this character, but like me or you, like as a fan, we will never
We
be
won't
like,
know
oh,
that. Yeah.
that psycho was played by our actor Dean. Like
Yeah.
like it's a wild thing, but I mean they put so much love and attention into it. And it also just helps having actors that are fans of the franchise, because
Oh,
they sort of have that, they understand the, like how big it is.
and you want to be part of it at that point. Like, there's very few things that I think as a creative that you love that you don't imagine, you know, daydream about. Like, talking about GTA and things like that. Like, the things that got me into, you know, gaming or writing or acting or things like that. Of course, those are the things that you're just like, I hope to emulate that one day or be able to be a part of that one day. And like, I joke all the time about if the TV show Hannibal ever got revived, I would, you know, sell a limb. I would literally, what would it take? Get me in that room. Here's every spec I've ever
Yeah.
had in any capacity. And something like Borderlands, absolutely. Like, I feel like I remember I was at a dinner party. Hi, Kat. I remember I was at a dinner party in LA, and I was talking to the person next to me, and we were talking about scripts, and she was directing and all that stuff. And when she sent me her IMDb, I saw that she was in Portal, and I looked for a second, and I was like, oh my god, she's the model for Chell. And I was just like, oh,
Oh wow.
you were like, you're in Portal. And she was like, oh yeah, like, you know that? I'm like, of course I fucking know Portal. What are we talking about? Like, I cosplay you. Like, what are we talking about right
Mhm.
now? And it's one of those things where, like, voice actors, we know some people know voice actors, but you know what I mean. Like, it's, this is my character, this is what we're doing. But it's so much of
Yeah.
that, like the excitement I had for then meaning that for a character that doesn't speak, doesn't whatever, that isn't whatever. I was like, no, you brought that to life. That's fucking amazing. That's the coolest thing ever. Like, you don't even see her in the game. You see her in a reflection. And I'm just like, this is truly, like, I'm geeking out right now. And so when it is, you know, a chance to work on something, as a fan, because I feel like at least everyone I know, there are clearly plenty of people who work on these games, but all the people I've had the privilege of meeting and befriending who work on these games were fans of the games before they start working on the games. And I think that's so much of why they do feel so full of love and those love letters to the franchise, because these are just a bunch of nerds who are getting to work on one of their favorite game franchises.
Yeah, I mean it's real, like game development is really hard. Like it's, when I know I fell into the trap when I was a student, or when I went into college. I was like, oh, I like to play games. That means I can make games.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so many people think that like, oh, it's really easy, but like I remember like I had to tell my parents like when I started at Gearbox, I was like, Mom, like yes, my team is only two people, but like the technical animation team, the people that literally just put the skeleton inside of the character models, is a 5-person team. And like, but then you have that multiplied by like 100. Like there are just so many people that do every little small aspect of these games. And really, if you're not like a fan, at least like a little bit of a fan, it's hard to do, because like I like, for me the driving factor is always, you know, like I loved Borderlands 2. Didn't play the pre-sequel, my bad, but I remember when it came out, my roommate in college bought it and was like, look at this, is super cool.
I
But
convert
for
everyone
like
to the
Borderlands,
pre-sequel eventually. It's okay. It's okay. You're forgiven.
I'm still playing through it a little bit.
There are plenty of
I
people I know
enjoy
who
it.
love these games who just literally forget the pre-sequel exists. Like we'll be talking about shooters, and I hear like every ranking it's off, and it was off the
Mhm.
Golden Keys for a while that like Randy posted. I remember I was just like, finally, one moment, I'm like, where the fuck is this game? Like this is our baby. Like give it to me. And so like I mean, yeah, it's one that a lot of people ended up missing. But no,
Mhm.
I mean that's what I feel like the crux of it is that you have to enjoy what you're doing a little bit in something as brutal as the game industry, a lot of it. And it's so easy when it's like, I suck at cooking. And every time I try to talk to people about cooking, they're like, oh no, there's always a thing at Inspo, it's fine. They'll like try something recipe. I'm like, no, you do not understand. I am both bad at it and do not like it. Like I will burn things. And
Mhm.
it's just like people take for granted when it's like they know how to do something or they think all the pieces. Like I should be able to cook more than I am. I don't. And that's
Yeah.
like such a very specific, like universal thing where you can like do something passable. Something like making a game that has so many people involved in it and so much money and red tape if you're at a bigger studio and like anything like that. Like it is unpredictable every step of the way. The other day, just like something video games and Kit, your VXF lead, had responded being like, honestly, making video games is a miracle because it's like herding cats in a windstorm. And I'm like, that is the perfect phrase I've ever heard. Like, that is exactly every description I've ever heard of this. And it's what film feels like. I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
like there's just so many variables that you can't account for that. Again, I even the cutting your darlings in something like a project I'm making versus something I'm working on is a completely different thing. So I'm imagining how much cut content you have had to like nurture and fight with. And like when I have to scrap a project for a client and it's just something that I've spent so much time getting right and then it doesn't even make it into it or we completely replace it, it's soul crushing a little
Mhm.
bit. And sometimes better, but sometimes like I imagine there's some really fucking cool stuff you loved working on that just like doesn't make it in, but that's part of the process and a necessary part of the process.
It's a sad part of the process, especially because like um for me, it's a character from Borderlands 3 that I don't think I can talk about, but like that character was super cool. Like I spent like I just like his outfit, like his design was the coolest thing. And like then like I remember that day where we got the email, we were like, oh, like this character is cut. I was like, no, because like we had literally just I think like a week or two before finished getting all the animations for that character.
Oh
Um
no.
and like when I mean like all the animations, I mean like the entire the actor we had worked with the animator that was animating the character and sort of like gave him a special sort of like if you see the animation, if you see the idol, you'll be like, oh, okay, I know
Yeah.
exactly who that character is.
It brings
So
it
like
to
stuff
life.
like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's sad seeing that stuff getting cut. But it is part of the game industry, and you know, if we had unlimited time and unlimited money, we would be able to make these masterpiece of a game. But I mean, at the end of the day, we have to make money, and
Yeah.
making a game just spends all of your money. So,
It does, and people have no idea actually conceptually what that cost, and
mhm.
it's insane. People are like, "Oh, reboot Battleborn," and you're just like, "Okay," but it's so much. I remember there was this one thread that stuck with me for a while because like that explains it. But it was a game writer talking about one of their first gigs, and they had no idea how much like ripple effect across every part of the process like little changes would have. And she before the weekend turned in some scenes where the character like got in, took off her jacket and like went about her business, and it was just like really simple come in cutscene. She came in Monday to a panic from multiple departments and this jacket and like all this ripple
I
effect
remember
effect.
that thread.
Yeah, and it
It
was just
was
ringing. It was insane.
I've experienced that. Like there was a time a couple months ago where we did something in on a cinematic shoot, and then we were like as soon as we cut, everyone was like, "Wait, does this hat move?" And it was like pause. We're not doing anything, and they just started writing messages being like, "Guys, can we actually animate this hat before we move on?" And then when they were like, "Yeah," they were like, "Okay, cool. Let's keep going. Like we can do this. We can keep shooting." But it's small stuff like that, like when it's what like brings it apart. Like shooting mocap, it like takes it apart from like film, because in film you can do whatever you want. Like the
Yeah.
actor can improv, but like if one of our actors improvs wrong, like and like either there's like something where like he puts a hand or like he tries to like open a pocket that can't open, you know, it sort of like ruins that shot, and then we have to go back and redo it.
Yeah.
um but it's fun and it's funny, I find that like every time that happens, I sort of laugh and I get a little excited because I'm like, ooh, it's happening again. Like I get to see the ripple effect. Like I get to see everyone sort of go all the way like through the chain to be like, can this happen? Can we do this? Can we do that?
It's so fascinating. Talking about the first things that you saw that made you go like, wait, is this the next gen of what this could look like? For me was the Phantom Liberty trailer, honestly. Thinking about that for the Cyberpunk DLC. And when they do the
Hmm.
transition to Idris Elba like being in-game model from the commercial, I remember just like I can tell when I'm watching it, but like first time watching it, just like moving on, I blinking you miss it in that transition. And I
Yeah.
was like, holy shit, this is fucking amazing. This is absolutely, you're capturing so many of these emotions, and that's why I think the facial mocap really sticks with me, and as just as the concept in general, because it is those micro little expressions that do matter and make or break a lot of takes. And it's, one of the basics in acting class, like, forcing an emotion isn't as interesting as like, feeling and like trying to mask it. Like when you're trying not to cry, you're trying not to cry. You're not trying to force tears out kind of thing. So it's like those little
Yeah.
movements, and being able to capture those well, I imagine takes a lot of practice. And
It
yeah, like just eyebrow movements even.
Yeah, like because I mean the whole idea behind it, it's like in order to be a good actor, you have to be able to act in like a silent film. Like you have to be able
Yeah.
to like not talk. Um and like that both for body mocap and face mocap. Like it's so important to get those micro movements because like just
Hmm.
me and you talking here, like our faces are moving so much and no one ever really realizes how much micro movements of a face actually matter to make something look human until you see something that is so bad and like you can tell like they ran out of time or like oh like it's just like they purposely didn't put a lot of like time into the face, but it's stuff like that where you're like okay like that sort of stuff is it feels way too robot-y, but then it's on the other end too where if you go too much, if you get too in depth into that detail, you can tell something is wrong. Getting that sweet spot is it's hard but it's really fun, and that's one of the things I love most about face capture is like while we're on set I get to monitor like everyone's faces. Like my job on set half of the time is literally staring at people's faces to make sure the
Amazing.
cameras don't move, because if the cameras move, like if something messes up, then all the tracking can break and then we
Yeah.
have to redo that. So like I our actors, I have all of their faces like memorized. It's really funny. I'm friends with a lot of them, so like when I'm working, like I'll take a photo of their face and just send it to them and they're like I hate you, like
I've
because
been there.
face mocap is it gets the most unflattering angle of anyone at all times. You see up your nose, you see every little thing in your mouth.
You
But
learn to hate your
it's
face. Yeah.
yeah, but it's also it's fun doing it. For me, it's fun because I never put on the face mocap helmet because I don't want to look at my face. But for me, it's fun really studying because like at the end of the day, all I do is I study all of our actors' faces and I get to sort of understand how they move and like the little nuances, and then seeing those little small nuances transfer onto our character rigs. It's insane, and then seeing our animators taking that up to another level, like because like the data we get in, I want to say it's probably like around like 60 to 70% of the way there, and then our cinematics team just brings it to like a whole nother level. So
How long between getting those captures and monitoring that and then seeing it in that rig, even like that first pass, how long does that normally take? Like, is this and granted variables, but do you normally see, oh, this is working, we need to do this, or is it like something you have to come back and revisit later?
in the good old days, aka Borderlands 3 days, and like Tiny Tina's, well, actually, not even Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. In Borderlands 3, the amount of work it took to get face mocap data was insane. Um, for basically the whole pipeline back then was we had to really go frame by frame of each video, and we had to manually track all the facial movements, and we had to put training frames, but sometimes we'd have to put like hundreds of these frames, and we'd have to go
Wow.
frame by frame to make sure all the movement was being correctly tracked. So during that could take like tracking alone could take like 3 to 4 hours depending, like anywhere from like 1 hour to 3 hours depending on the complexity, and then the retargeting process would take another like couple hours. So I mean, for a full shot, it could take like around a week. Now we've started using this machine learning software that takes all of that really, really tedious face tracking and it does it all automatically. I can upload an entire scene and it'll be done and ready to go onto a character in 3 minutes.
Oh my God, really?
Hmm.
That's one of the AI applications that I feel like are genuinely like that. That makes sense for a time saving standpoint because you're still
Yeah,
doing the work and having that artistry behind needing to get that capture to do it. But that I can't imagine how much time fucking saves.
it was it's terrible. Let me just tell you that because like for big projects, like I don't know like anything beyond Gearbox, but like
Yeah,
from what I've heard, like games that are like super cinematic heavy, like what's a good example?
like
Like
Death Stranding or
the
something. Like
I was gonna go even lower, like NBA 2K.
okay, yeah, yeah,
They would hire like 20 to 30 people only to focus on face mocap to do that face tracking because it was so tedious and it required so much work and at the time it really couldn't be automated. So now the fact that we can buy this software, it's very expensive. It's extremely expensive, but when you look at the cost versus how much you're saving, both time and all that money, you're like, okay, it's actually really cheap.
yeah.
And it really is about, going forward in the future, art and everything in art and technology, it's about working with AI to make your job easier. And I think like the software I use is that perfect example. Like I know AI maybe in like 20 30 years it might be able to take over my job, but right now it's in the sweet spot where I still have to monitor the AI and make sure I give it the best data possible
Yeah.
so it can do its job. And when it does its job, it takes so much time off of my plate, or
And
it,
it
it
lets you
saves so much
focus.
time. And
Yeah, it lets you focus on the other areas of the job because that's the thing. With a small team, you're talking about too on a AAA game, like you're still
mhm.
have a fuck ton of work. I imagine that it's one of
Yeah,
those things. If you can remove one of the weights somewhere to at least have that support, I imagine it frees up a lot of brain space to really perfect or innovate new things or be able to do more versions and any type of real variable that you would have to cut when you are spending that much time and money and effort on a
yeah,
very tedious process.
yeah. I mean, because like we didn't even we did a lot of face mocap when I first joined Gearbox, which was 2018. It's been 6 years.
Oh my God,
But when
congratulations.
I thank you that I had my 1 year anniversary last month. It's sort of
Oh my God,
insane.
sick.
Or
Nice.
sorry, my 6 year anniversary last
I
month.
knew what you meant. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's so sick.
But
Time flies, man.
it really does fly because when I joined, I was the second person on the team, and now our seventh mocap person is starting next month. So
Ooh.
we've like more than tripled the size of the team in the 6 years I've been here, and it's been cool to see just the evolution of stuff we've been able to do. Just because I mean, like, so you hear like 7 people, like, oh, it's not that much, but it really it allows us to do so much more and focus so much more on like the future of motion capture and the future of how are we going to make these games even better, which is what like we like it's fun to work on that side of stuff. Like that's the like whenever we're not shooting, that's a lot of like what I'm doing now, what my coworker slash roommate is doing. So
Yeah, what does that future look like to you? Like, what gets you excited about that? Do you want to stay in mocap? Do you really love that and want to like innovate that? Do you have a future for it? Is it like, the what it can do and that passion ignite something else or somewhere else in that process?
I love motion capture. From the second the first class, the first homework assignment, from the second I like it got to the step where it was like apply the mocap to the character, and I was like, my God, it looks beautiful. Like ever since
I
then,
genuinely love that. That's so fucking cool.
ever since then, and that was 9 10 years ago. I have loved motion capture. It's so every time I like see like a behind the scenes of a different game or I see like new technology that comes out that makes mocap easier for the common people. A good example of that is like Epic's MetaHuman Animator, which brings face mocap to a lot of people just for free in Unreal Engine.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool.
Like stuff like that. It's like just like helping advance the industry is what I love, and especially mocap, because mocap is such a small subset of the film and game industry. Um, it's cool to see everyone, like when I go to SIGGRAPH or GDC, we always have mixers where it's like, hey, it's the motion capture mixer, and then everyone in mocap goes to that mixer.
Yes, we love
So
the small
like,
ones. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
when things are
So
when
like,
things are close knit, for sure. I
yeah,
imagine there's a
and
lot of passion.
it's a super close knit like community. Like everyone wants to see everyone succeed. Like if you Google stuff about mocap, you won't find anything. So much
Yeah.
of mocap lives within the minds of all of the mocap artists that it's sort of an understood thing that like, hey, like if someone has this question and asks it on the Facebook group, you'll get like 10 or 15 responses of 10 to 15 different ways to do that and achieve that. It's an exciting community to be in.
I think what's really cool about it too is it feels like something that a lot of people would assume it's just very like standard, like, okay, here's how you draw Mickey Mouse, draw the circle, whatever, and you have the step by step. But I imagine, especially with how even if you're using the same actor, how their face ages and changes and shifts, like being able to figure out how best to capture that. Yeah. Even from a baseline setting up that level, let alone capturing that and then rendering it and actually getting to apply it. I imagine it's more of that kind of like art form where it's, every illustrator has that flair, that style they do it, or starts in a different way, that it becomes something that you can really innovate on your own and find that creative flow. And it's so, I keep using the word unique, but I mean, like, what other jobs where you're like staring in someone's face and figuring out how to like capture their like eye twitch, like kind of things. Yeah.
It's fun. Like my job, my career, like I always say, like I get to study people's like movement for a living, because like I mean like even small things, like one time we had this guy auditioning and he had mentioned at the start that prior to becoming an actor he was in the military, and we were watching the mocap data in real time, and we were like, he has a very small limp right there, like he must have gotten hurt, like injured while he was in the military. But like stuff like that, like it's cool to notice it, because like something like that could be extremely helpful, because having that natural having that limp built into your walk, it can just bring so much more unique animation and unique flavor to something that like if you see it in the game you're like, oh cool, that person has a limp, but like you wouldn't think like, oh, the actual actor like had a limp for it, so like it has that limp.
Did you ever play, it's 2K actually, but did you ever play The Quarry? When it
I
came
did
out?
not play The Quarry.
I love it. Informed post for I fucking love it. Granted, again, spiritual successor to Until Dawn. What blew my mind with that was the pause menu when you're in it. Whatever character like story part you're on at the time, they have like a super close up of their face while you're in the menu, and it's literally just like them vibing. And I would sit there for way too long, especially the first time I played it. It was on stream, and I still sat there just like amazed at how detailed these animations were, because it was literally just like how someone sits there and they kind of have that one, like, they don't like really pull their lip, but just kind of like, okay, you start to do something and the little nose twitch and, go away. And like things you don't think about where, yeah, you're right. If it's too much of that, it's like uncanny valley. Like something just feels wrong and it's distracting. It's taking away from it. But there are so many games where, they sit there and they're on their little title screen and they're doing it. But it's just like this hyper close up where you see just like the way like someone's like brow will just kind of move and then it moves like I'm just like, holy shit, I've never noticed how advanced this has gotten. And I still will every time I replay it, and when I have to pause it I forget about it. I'm like, how did they get Skylar so specific? Like it just blows my mind. And yeah, it's I can keep using the same word, but it's just so cool, especially when it's applied to non-hyper realistic things like Gearbox games.
That's one of the reasons I love Gearbox games, is just like the art style is so unique. And honestly, before I started at Gearbox, before I found out they were hiring for mocap, I had no clue they did motion capture, because you look at Borderlands and you're like, oh, that's a cartoony game. Like,
yeah, I had no idea.
That can't use motion capture. Like, why would it use the super realistic thing that Call of Duty uses to make their characters look like actual humans when it's a cartoon? But that's what I love so much about motion capture in a cartoony universe is you get to record it, and then there's really no limit on how you can edit that and make it look unique. It's like capturing stuff for like Tiny Tina during Wonderlands.
Hmm.
Um, like so much of that movement, it was just like figuring out the most crazy, wacky movement we could do, and just really putting 100%, like 100 times more oomph into like a normal walk, and you're like, okay, that's Tiny Tina right there, or like her facial movements because she's like this psycho teenager.
Yeah,
So
hell yeah, I love that. Have you found that like when you go back through like games from your youth at that point, the ones that got you into gaming, that you have a different relationship with it now with the way you work on games, or has given the fact that you're more on the performance side of it helped keep it more separate?
oh no, I 100% judge like every single game I play now.
I
I
love it.
the a really good example was when Cyberpunk first came out.
Oh yes,
I
talk
was
cyberpunk
playing
to me.
it,
Let's go.
and
Let's fight.
I'm forgetting the character name, but like it's after like it's the first time you get in a car, and one of
Jackie.
the guys, yeah, Jackie picks you up, and he starts driving, and he makes a 90-degree right hand turn, and the first thing I noticed was I was looking at the steering wheel, and the steering wheel turned like 15 degrees, and I was like, that's bullshit. You have to turn the steering wheel so much more to take a 90-degree right turn. And
You know,
everyone was like, what? And I
go
was like,
go.
it's not realistic. And they were like, really, Rob? And I was like, yeah, really.
Yeah, I feel that. I'll defend Cyberpunk till I die. I fucking love it. I think it's a fantastic game. But yeah, I will definitely like it will be gorgeous. I won't even think about it. And then there'll be a scene that just like did not render well in whatever I'm doing, and like someone's mouth stopped moving, or like, yeah, the car's outside, suddenly people are T-posing. And it's way better now with the 2.0. But like it would be things I'm sitting there and it would like, yeah, they would go to turn the music down and completely like hand through the windshield instead. And I'm just sitting
Mhm.
here going like, it's fine, don't worry about it. And yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, one of my favorite games that I've been playing since I was a kid is like a 25-year-old MMO that has not very good animations, and I
What
still
is
love it.
it?
RuneScape, if you know RuneScape.
Dude, yes. Fucking dude, RuneScape is how I knew I was queer. Which is a hell of a story.
How I,
RuneScape opened the door to me that queer people existed when I grew up in the southern, like whatever. It was someone in
Mhm.
town square being like, "Do you like men or women?" And I was like, "Well, I'm a girl." And they're like, "Yeah, you can like both." And I'm like, "I can, I can, I can like both." What? That's an option? No idea. Blew
Mhm.
my mind. I owe RuneScape so much.
I owe RuneScape because I learned to type in RuneScape. Like
Hell
I
yeah.
never took any typing classes, and when I type, like I have like chicken finger type. Like I type with my two index fingers, and I can keep up with everyone because I had to learn how to type fast because I had to sell things and whatnot.
I love
Um,
that. I would just get robbed in the woods. I was an idiot every single time. I was like, I'll trust you. Like, I was not smart playing that game. It was my first MMO at that point. But no, I was
mhm.
such a soft spot for it because of that. And yeah, it's shitty fucking graphics. Like the OG
Yeah,
RuneScape I know. I'm like, no, I want that the polygonous of polygons where they don't have a face and you're sitting here still spending all this effort finding an outfit that works. Like to
yeah.
go chop more
I
trees.
I want the woodcutting animation where it's literally 3 frames and you just see it's
Yes.
like and like stuff like it's I love bad animations and I love good animations.
Yeah, there are different categories for me. It's same like I love bad
Mhm.
movies. I love good movies. Like if it's like very it's a vibe, and I think why I'm so nostalgic for the PS2 and like so many of the old games I have, because yeah, when I look at my Steam, there are so many games that are just broken, and I say this all the love in the world to your entire team and the world, but Borderlands 2 is a broken fucking game. It is a broken janky fucking game, and I drag it all the time. Like if I have unlimited frames, I will every single time run into a wall going into the Crimson Raiders HQ, and this happens every day, and I'm still like, like I don't expect it coming. And there are things like that where it's like it's a 12-year-old game. I love it with my whole heart. Like it's this whole thing.
Yeah.
Things happen, move around, but it's just like it's so a lot of my favorite games are ones that I will sit there, and then Lilith will always have this thing where she just like randomly upstairs will like do the animation like she's leaning on the balcony, but she's just doing it midair, and so she just like randomly has her arm. And I'm just always like, girl, I will pull me out of it and stuff, but I love it so much, and it's part of what makes it that. Like if it were just like, here, it's all fixed, here you go,
Yeah.
modernized, it wouldn't feel the same. It's so much
No,
part of it.
it's definitely not the same. And one of the coolest things for me, I remember the first time I played Borderlands 2, whenever that was, 2013, I think. One of my friends, like when you first meet Ellie, he was like, "Hey Rob, come over here. I have to show you something." And then he
Did he crush
crouched
you?
and no, he crouched and walked under Ellie's boobs and tried to stand. And he was like, "You can't stand because Ellie's boobs have a collision." And I did it, and I was like, "Oh my God!" Like her boobs, like they gave her boobs collision. So then like 10 years later, like when or no, however many, like 6 years ago when I started at Gearbox, that same friend that showed me that messaged me on Facebook and was like, "Hey, I know you're working on Borderlands 3. Can you talk to your team and see if Ellie's boobs in Borderlands 3 have those colliders?" And literally, I went in the next day. I found Ellie in game. I crouch walked up to her and I stood up and I was like, "Huh." And then I went into the next room over because our lead technical animator, the guy in charge of like all that stuff, he was around on Borderlands too. So I was like, "Hey Josh, like how come Ellie's boobs don't have or like how come they don't have collision in this game?" And he was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Wait, did you not know that in Borderlands 2 you physically cannot stand up under her boobs?" And he was like, "I didn't know that was a thing."
I love that so much. It's so good.
And then I was like, and then I pushed really hard. I was like, "Okay, guys, we have to get this in BL3." And then no, it didn't make it. I was too new.
Heartbroken.
But
you
it was
twist arms in the future.
it was just so hilarious to me, like as a fresh new recruit into the game industry, that the people that made that game didn't know that, like the people that made that character and were responsible for putting that character into the game didn't even know that happened. So
gamers finding the weirdest shit is my favorite thing at that point. Like, it's infuriating and I hate us all, but also like it's so fucking fun and hilarious when I find new things. And I'm like, why does this happen?
Like I remember we were all like a few weeks after like release of BL3, we were watching this speedrunner, and he was like, and it was a speed run where he didn't want to fire a single shot of a gun. And then it got to the point on Eden 6 in the jail where you have to shoot down the cage from the roof, from the ceiling, and everyone was like, "Oh, we got him here." And then like 20 minutes later, this man had figured out how to climb over the mountain, clip through the top of the mountain, fall on top of the cage, and melee it.
Sounds like,
and when that happened, everyone was like, "What the fuck?"
The way I literally, someone in my server the other day was like, "Hey, I found a new out of bounds in Borderlands 2. Like, here's the thing." I'm like, "How the fuck are we still finding this shit? Like, what do you mean?" They're like, "Yeah, it's a new skip, like through the dust over here. Like, I'll have a video of it." I'm like, how? Like, are we still doing this at this point, 12 years? Like, because again, people have speed runs down to under 20 minutes for base campaign and like stuff like it's insane. And so looking at the amount of shit we have found through the years, I look at it as more like when I send a script off and it's been a few years. Like I recently had a request to read one of my like favorite projects I've had from this producer. So I sent it off. I hadn't read it in a while because it's been in a drawer and I haven't been, strikes and everything else. I read through it, sent it off. It was fine. And then I was like, read through it again. It's been a while. And after I'd sent it, I sat there and I found a typo I'd never found before after it's like the 18th draft of it. And so you always are going to find something after something is out and shipped every single time that you didn't catch that I've looked for 18 times. So imagine that in a game that is so able to be, one, modified by people, but then two, requiring so many different variables. If you have any type of customization in that game, how quickly things go off the rails. And Borderlands 2 is like that for me, where it's just like, yeah, it is, especially playing on PlayStation versus PC, there will be things where I'm like, I know now inherently if I could do this, I same frame, or this, and this particle in Bloodwing has this spot here, but then this has collision and it should. Overwatch, I'm like that too, dude. Overwatch 2, I'm like, I'm a Widow main and it's a problem. I hate myself for it. But like literally, I've now, every time they rework a map, I get mad because I'll just be like, no, I know there's no collision here, but there is collision over here. So this one weird little part of the fence I can actually shoot through, but this complete open space, I can't do that. So if I grapple over here, I'm like, why do gamers do that? How do we do that? But I love that is her boobs. It's amazing.
I mean, I still do that in every single game I play. It's just like I do it even more so like when we're playing like when I was playtesting Wonderlands, like what my coworkers would be like, Rob, like, why are you hopping on every single rock? And I was like, I'm trying to break stuff, okay?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love doing the thing where it's like if it's a game like Last of Us or something that is very like there's no map, you just inherently kind of follow that path. I love then going completely the opposite direction, just seeing how much is actually like done and built in and things like that. And I'll do the same. I'll be like, can I hop on this building? Is there fall damage in this game? Like, I don't remember. And games that aren't open world that I just really try to abuse that in and just want to see the depth of it because I'm like, maybe I'm missing something. But then I'm the gamer who's going to run through and not take time to loot because I just want to get through the story because I'm interested in the story. And then I fuck myself. It's problem.
The last time I played, the last time I played through Borderlands 3, it's the friend I'm still playing with. She loots every single box. So like we're going through a level, and I just have to stop and be like, "Hey," and she's like, "Hey, I'm getting the cash," and I'm like, "You don't need the cash. I can spawn unlimited cash," and then she's like, "No, that's not fun." Like,
have you are you a D&D person at all?
A little bit. I've played a few campaigns. I want to play more.
I literally today got back we're in a tiny 3-person campaign, like including our DM, but she flew in from Canada and we just rented a cabin this weekend and literally we've only played D&D for like, I'm running on no sleep. We have just been playing D&D and I'm really glad it did because it was this one big battle that we didn't intend to have. We were like, nothing's going to happen. We got through maybe a day and a half in like 3 days. It was real time, if anything. But yesterday we were in this battle for 16, 17 hours and it was absurd. And it was one of those things where we were sitting there and we went through every resource we had, all this stuff. Like I was on death saving throws at least 5 times. My very last one with 2 fails was about to die. Got a nat 20. We screwed all the crap. Fast forward to we're arguing later after we're just like, okay, it's 2 a.m. So that how do we wrap up this day? Because we need to hop back to this other arc that we've done this stuff. And my girlfriend starts going, you know, this is why I hoard in video games. I get every single loot in every single box because if we didn't have those gems and I didn't spend all day making those health potions when I was recovering, when you didn't want me to recover, we would have been fucked. Like she just like gets so I'm like, you know, you're right. Like, no, we should not have left that alive. This would have been like a TPK kind of situation, but we just abused every single resource we had because we were hoarding this whole time. Meanwhile, I'm the hoarder in Borderlands and games in general. Will be like, I forget I have stuff. I pick it up and I go ADHD blind to it. So Cyberpunk, I'm still like, why am I encumbered? And then Borderlands, I'm out of space and I use the same 4 or 5 guns and I suddenly have 30 and I don't know why I'm holding on to them other than the fact I'm like, no, shiny, you may use. Logically, you need other elements. And so it's like I'm trying to get less of a hoarder. And meanwhile, it was like the most vindicated I've ever seen them being like, this is literally you stop at every loot chest, you go in every room, you search every bookcase because we would have been fucked and it would have been better if we had more. Like it was just, it felt so validating. But I absolutely feel that translate into my life.
Yeah, I mean that's why I like Borderlands so much. Like it just has that, like just the fact that we have billions of guns. It just asks for people to be hoarders because like they will never pick up the same gun twice.
Borderlands is oh god, talk to Borderlands 2 people. I don't know, they pick up the same fucking guns all the time. But, like, I love us. We're problems. We're monsters. But that's the thing about 3, where it does feel like I like how the parts are just. It's just different. It's just you don't. It allows that more flexibility. I do love that. I don't get that brain scratch from other games. And it's definitely one of the reasons that do keep me coming back to games. And why a lot of people haven't played TPS if that's what they love Borderlands. Because as much as I love TPS and think it's one of the best random of the shooters, and I fucking love it, it doesn't have really gear acquisition because it's the development cycle, blah blah blah. Yeah. And so it's hard to have the looter shooter vibe when you don't have a real built-in gear acquisition.
Yeah, and just the gear in 3, just like everything about it, like the gunplay. I just like I remember when I first played it, and then I went back to play Borderlands 2 that night because my friends and I were playing it. The first thing I noticed, I was like, wow, this game sucks. Like it doesn't suck,
so
but
mechanically
just like
fun though. No, 3 is an improvement on every step of that.
Just like the movement around the map. I remember the first thing I did when I got into BL2 was I tried to climb up onto a ledge and I was like, oh, can't climb up onto a ledge.
Yeah. I can't even jump in BL2 well. I'm like, how do you guys grenade jump and do this? I have thousands of hours in this game and I still can't do it. And 3 I'm over here. But 3, I tell people all the time, like, is so mechanically fun to play that if you're used to like next gen games, haven't played it, 3 or Wonderlands. feels so fun. And I remember when I first got the PS5, and so I had the upgrade for BL3 and Wonderlands, and I played it for the first time with the adaptive controls. Oh
Hmm.
my god. Oh my god. I was like, every Borderlands game needs this. Like when I
Yeah.
swapped it, I remember, to Jacob's shotgun, and I was like, oh, that's different. And then I think it was like a Mal 1 charge or something I picked up. I'm like, how the fuck did that happen? And I lost my mind. It was I think I lost hours sitting there just picking up every weapon I could, just seeing how it felt different. And that
I love the
alone,
adaptive
it's
triggers.
so
It's the
cool. Dude, even just like the feedback. I remember opening Miles Morales when I was, because I wanted to see something like built for 5 on it, right? And I opened it and I just had it on the menu for a bit, and I was again watching, just like, oh my god, this detail's amazing. But when I finally was like, okay, restart the game, just sit down, get into it, and you can go do something else, it's fine. And because I wanted to just whip around the city and just see what that felt like. But it
Mhm.
was when it's the opening scene where it's just kind of raining a little bit and he's walking, and I realized I felt it in the control, but it wasn't like that old school like vibration of the controller, right? Like I was like, how is this actually tricking my brain right now? Like it just is so, yeah, the innovation of like when Rumble controls first started. Though
Yeah.
I do love telling people about BL2 when they haven't ever played Borderlands on a controller, and I tell them the Moxie ones vibrate when you're on controller, and no one ever fucking knows. And it's one of
Wait,
my favorite random details.
what do you mean?
Literally, her SMG is a good touch and bad touch when you're using them on like a controller. The vibration, because like the vibro pulse, that one included too. But when you're shooting them, the controller starts aggressively vibrating just consistently, like you're using a vibrator.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
No, and that's like so many people who like are like PC. I was on
Hmm.
PlayStation until I started streaming, finally like moved over. It's all I knew. So it throws me off when I go back to it now because I'm so ingrained into PC like keyboard and mouse. But when I go back, it was the quintessential. The first time I did it, I remember just dropping the controller and being like, I cannot believe I did not clock that. Like it's so good. It's so fucking good. But yeah, little details like that. Borderlands will take the time to put in those jokes into the game and those layers into the
Hmm.
game that people don't even know. And it's been out 12 years, and I love that I'm still uncovering shit like that.
It's fun. That's why I love Borderlands. Like, one of I don't even know what his title is now. His name is Drew. He's like responsible for every wacky side mission you see in every Borderlands game slash
What a job.
Wonderlands.
What a fucking
And
job.
like, when like he for in Wonderlands, what is it? Do you remember Captain LeChance, the like
Yeah.
the pirate ship? Like that character is named after a bartender in Frisco that everyone loves, and like he's served everyone for the past like 15 years, and like
Hell yeah.
he used to work near the old office, and now he works like near the new office. Well, our current
Yeah.
office, and like just like stuff like that, like both integrating like real life people, but then also just like doing the weirdest, wackiest stuff. Like the one of the funniest side missions in BL3, it had to like do with like internet or something, or like gaming. I don't
Oh
really
yeah.
remember. Because like the side missions, like I only get to work with like the main missions, because the main missions are the ones that need those like animations and whatnot.
Hmm.
So then when you see the side missions, I'm just like, what are these people like smoking?
That
Because
was me with the
it's
Tommy Wiseau side mission. I was like, what did I just walk into?
yes.
Felix was like that for me too, in fairness. So Payne and Teller too. I was just like, I can't. But yeah,
Hmm.
the Tommy Wiseau mission, I thought I was having a stroke. I'm like, this is Tommy. This is what I'm thinking. Okay, yeah, it is. Like it just took so much convincing myself that we're getting this meta right now, and it's so wacky and unexpected. Yeah, I don't know many other franchise. I can't think of any other franchise when I try to explain that kind of vibe to people that truly just don't take itself too seriously to do that, but
Yeah.
it fits so well in the world, and it's so, 3 does it so well. I prefer 3 side missions to 2 all the time, because I'm very much, if it's not connected to the story or if it's not like its own thing, I like, my brain just wants to like go to the finish line.
Yeah.
But 3's feel so special. Like some of them are
There.
just like, why the fuck are we doing this? And it's
Yep.
so ridiculous.
It's because someone had a really dumb idea, and the amazing thing about Gearbox is when you have those dumb ideas, they're like, put it in the game. Well,
I do
I mean,
love that.
honestly, going off of that, I think one of the coolest things like in BL3 development was one day we were sitting there, I was working, and we got an email, and it was like, okay, like everyone is invited to make a pitch for one of the campaign DLCs.
Fuck yes.
And like there was a confluence page and people just started putting everything up there, and there were like 40 or like 50 pitches of people just like being like, this is what I think the next, or like this is what DLC like 3 should be. So
I love that. I remember seeing a tweet about I forget which writer it was at the time, but pitching the title for Krieg's DLC and being shocked it was taken and just being like, I wasn't expecting this. This was a swing. And the fact that that's what I'm like, I fucking love that. That it's just that kind of place to be. First thought, best thought. This is my pun. This is what I'm doing.
hmm
Let's commit. And the fact that that's just embraced is my favorite thing.
yeah. But talking about that DLC, I feel like a lot of people hate on that DLC, but that DLC to me is one of the best ones in my opinion.
Really, I always find people like absolutely like that is the DLC for them. But I mostly people in the I guess Twitch side of it really love Krieg and have that attachment. I think it's really well done. It's really fascinating.
Mhm.
It's really fascinating, and I love anything that gives me a little bit more lore. So I think that gets to expand on mine a little bit. But it was also fun. It was funny.
It was funny. It was entertaining. Just it was just pure Borderlands. Like they had the massive train that was a boss, and it just went around the map. Like what other franchises can you see that in? Like Last of Us isn't gonna have a flying train.
No, Last of Us, we're gonna do Nakayama just falling down the stairs and dying. You're like, cool,
Mhm.
done. Treasure room, like little things like that.
But then at like the same time, like then looking at DLC 3, Bounty of Blood, like it was, in my opinion, like it was so new to the Borderlands series having this like a Wild West DLC.
hmm
And
I love Bounty of Blood. It's a lot of people I know. It's like favorite. I'm a sucker for Nisha, and so I love the vibes of Rose because it's very Nisha coded for me. But no, it was a fantastic DLC, and yeah, I do think it deepened kind of what Borderlands offers at that point.
mhm.
That's how I feel about Guns, Love, and Tentacles. So that's my favorite. I have a soft spot for it, but it's just so special with the swings it does take. I feel like is probably looking because it's very being Cthulhu. Cthulhu is very niche of itself, but fits obviously into Borderlands and all this lore that we already have and the tongue in cheek and DLCs and references. But the way it integrates itself into the world of 3 was really special to me because that's a lot of the issue I have with the 2 DLCs where they just feel, for the most part, and like the Headhunters are fun. I don't play them all the time, but they feel so disconnected from the game. All of 3's
Mhm.
DLCs don't. They feel very much like they're adding to the game, which I
Yeah.
really love.
That's like for me, like having the different planets, that's when it really shined because like we weren't just stuck on Pandora, like we were able to go anywhere and it would make sense because it was on a different planet. And
Yeah.
it just adds to the game.
How do you feel about Eden 6 though?
I love Eden 6.
Really? I'm so excited I found someone who says it.
So
It's
for
amazing.
me, I'll be perfectly honest. I don't know the official soundtrack name of the song still, and that came out in 2019. But there is one song that
shame.
plays on Eden 6. I could find it somewhere, but I don't remember the actual name.
I have the vinyl over there to grab, but yeah.
Enter Floodmore Basin. But
Okay.
like at the time it was like ambiance 2 dot wave.
The
Like,
pinnacle of titling.
it was like because like every so often we have channels in our team chat where people like audio will just be like, hey, here's a bunch of music and we just listen through it. And like I remember hearing that and then I heard it in game and I was like, okay, like it was just like pinnacle like coolness to me. Like it felt like it sounded like a swamp.
Yeah.
It was a swamp.
The atmosphere of it is
been-
great, yeah.
Could there have been more in it? Probably. But I won't talk about my baby that way.
I know I feel that. I'm very much like I'll drag my own baby, but like it's a very complicated relationship. I don't like other people dragging it, but like I get it. Like it's a back and forth for me. For me, Eden, I think for me, I would have enjoyed it more because I enjoy when I pick it back up. If I'm happen to be at Eden 6 and that's where I pick up the game and where my save file was, I don't notice it at all. Like I'm like, this is great, go on.
Mhm.
For me, Borderlands 3 had a lot of very, very active missions back to back around that section where it just feels so long. It takes me on the rhythm of it. And I feel like Eden 6 gets the short end of the stick because of that. Because I'm always like, it's a very like the Yeah, it's like Borderlands, you're moving along, and then you have Eden 6, and then you're moving along and moving along. And it's like, yeah, it takes a while, but it's a big world, but the atmosphere is impeccable for that, which is why I think there is a lot of love. Like, a lot of my favorite cutscenes are in that. Like, it's just such a key part of it that I wish it just was like, I don't even know how you would move it or where you move it, but just had a little room to breathe, because people shit on it, and I think it's one of the coolest planets.
Yeah. It's also a good place to note that, like, Gearbox as a whole, I mean, like the games we made before that, I joined in 2018, so I never worked on anything prior to BL3, but it was such a departure from everything that anyone had ever developed there, which is what I think, like BL3, like, it's honestly such a technical achievement that a studio that had never made stuff like that was able to put out that game. Because it's big, and it's not open world, but I mean, the maps are big, and for a team that's never worked with big maps, or, you know, making something run on the original black VHS Xbox One, which is the most terrible thing ever, because let me tell you, optimizing for that system was the worst thing about development. Like, I'm not in optimizing, but I would always just hear my friends being like, yeah, we have to optimize for this piece of crap.
Honestly, yeah. I totally feel like that tracks from everything I've ever fucking heard.
But Eden 6, in my mind, is just, it's sort of like, it's a nice technical achievement that we have, that we are able to make it work and play really well. So
it does play well. I feel like fans of anything that they play a lot get a little, we all have our opinions.
People are allowed to have opinions, and like, I know a lot of people see Borderlands 3 and they're like, oh, like, Borderlands 2 is better because of the story.
They're wrong.
Well, I mean, I'm always just like, okay, you can have that opinion, but saying that overall the game is worse than BL2 is just not true, because
it's an improvement in quality of life in every way.
BL3 plays like a next gen game with the movement and just everything, and just like I still play it to this day. Like, I'm playing through it on my Switch now, and also the fact that we were able to get a Switch port of it blows
I was
my mind.
floored when that announcement happened. I did not expect it to happen, because I had all the other Borderlands games on Switch, and I was just like, yeah, of course. Like, I never thought it would be cool to have it one day. Jaw dropped. I was on a plane going to PAX when I saw it. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I have it now. I have the ultimate kind of thing. And I'm just like,
yeah,
it runs. It's insane.
I mean, my jaw also dropped because, like, the fact, like,
my laptop couldn't handle BL3.
Right? like the teams that develop Nintendo Switch ports are literal, like, black magic wizards. They I don't know what they do in life, what type of spells they cast or rituals they do, but those people are like the most insane people in the game industry.
I absolutely love that, because I have a friend who does it at 2K, and I shout out to you. I know you're listening. Weird as fuck, and I love you. It's that absolute black magic kind of feeling. I'm like, what is this voodoo? Like, just as a person, just like an enigma a little bit. I'm like, what witchcraft you must have to do for your job. I can't even imagine. So I love that that's just the vibe of that kind of gig.
You have to break the game.
Yeah, you really do.
Like you have to take out so much stuff. Like, I like the first thing I like when I got to like Ellie's like shack in BL3, like, I remember like hearing a skag, and I turned around and I was like, that skag is really far away, but it sounds like it's right next to me. And God, stuff like that. Like, I don't even get mad at it, because the fact that it plays at a smooth like frame rate on the Switch, I'm like, that's good enough for me.
Oh yeah, I'm like, I'm ass at the aiming on Switch, and I'm like, well, that's probably just me and the Joy-Cons more than anything. So I feel like I can't play Overwatch on the Switch either. I can't do anything on the Switch. But I can do Stardew Valley a little bit. I'm still bad at that. Persona, like, it's fine. But Borderlands, when I was running it, I'm like, yeah, it clearly is a graphical, like, what the Switch can handle versus, you know, what you're seeing on like a whole PC rig. But yeah, it was just smooth. It was running. It was loading faster than my PS4 did between maps. And it's like, holy shit, how did this happen? Because again, my laptop, I only played BL3 on the PlayStation until I got my PC, because my actual laptop, it would run too hot to play it, and Claptrap would just never stop loading. Claptrap just like would eventually freeze. He just would not do it. I'm like, and then the computer would overheat. I'm like, okay, cool, this is a PlayStation game. And it just didn't, because it's such a beefy game. And so I'm shocked it runs so well. Like, all the DLCs, like, you had a full fucking port That's insane.
Yeah, it blew everyone because like I didn't play it until release. Like my boss played it, but that's because my boss's wife is in outsourcing, so she
Hell
handles a
yeah.
lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
But like I picked it up when it came out, and I was like, my God, why is this good? Like,
Literally,
damn it.
I was like, this can't be good. It's just something that my brain wants it to have. So I have the whole collection. So I have the option to play it on a plane one day and it's fine. And then
Mhm.
I start playing it like, fuck, am I playing Borderlands 3 again? Or I'm just like sitting here
Yeah,
going through it because it played well.
because I mean, the entire joke during development was, "LOL, this will never run on Switch." Because
I
like,
love that you got it there too. If that was the
yeah,
running joke, that's fucking amazing.
I forget which company got it or did the port, but that company deserves all of the uh
Praise. Yeah.
all of the praise, all of the love, because I mean like stuff about ports, like the main development studio like never does the ports. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes they'll do like remasters or whatnot, but like the like upres, like the 4K upres for BL2 and the pre-sequel, and then like the whole like new Game of the Year enhanced for
Yeah.
BL1. Like we didn't work on it. My names are in the credits for those. Like I'm credited on those games, which I think is cool because I'm credited on every single Borderlands
Oh,
game.
that's sick.
But like that's what I love about game development is these like all the side support studios that
Hmm.
people don't really think about, but like those are the studios that like really like help
Yeah.
like the game industry. Because I mean, even for BL3, like the amount of outsourcing work that it took from so many outside studios to help us make a get like that game. So
I'm sure. I'm
it's
sure that's
insane.
like it takes a fucking village, man. It's insane. It's insane.
Mhm.
What game made you want to start working in games?
What game? Ooh.
It can be multiple. It can be no pressure, no pressure. But
So my like really like sob story, what made me want to work in games was RuneScape,
yeah,
because I I started playing it in middle school and I was bullied a lot in middle school. I didn't have a lot of friends at school, and I would come home crying most days from school, but then I would go on RuneScape and I would have these people that I met online that were just nice to me, that were my friends, and sort of having that escape from reality and being able to like feel happy again. Like it took me a long time to realize that made me want to like go into games, but
yeah,
like that's looking back now, that is one of the main reasons why I feel so connected to video games, is because of how much they help me get through hard times in my life growing up.
no,
So now
absolutely.
like going now being in this like in the seat where I am, and being able to like to look and see that we're helping people, and like the work I'm doing is like helping people get through hard times like the same way I did. It's like I came like full circle, and it's really what makes me love working at Gearbox. Like I don't know if you've ever like heard about this, but on the Gearbox website there is a contact form, and sometimes like I won't say which section goes to Randy, but one of them gets forwarded to Randy.
Oh my god, yes.
And every so often, like when was the last one? The last email we got was February 17th of this year. It's just like stories about people that either like they met someone like they met their spouse playing
Yeah.
Borderlands. They like they started a family around Borderlands, and it's just like all of these super insane emails that the company gets, and then they get forwarded out to everyone, and just with the title like "Why We Fight," and it's just like it's stuff like my story. It's like and I love that Randy does it because he's just like he just wants to like keep pushing us, you know, like.
Yeah. It's very
But
much that we're a family culture that can be really toxic at work, but like feels very sincere when it is that kind of passion behind it and drive behind it and sharing those really human elements of it.
hmm
Yeah.
like I one of the coolest things for me was there was in during the development of BL3 on Reddit, the guy Trevor, who was a really big fan, but he had cancer. So like he wanted to like his friend posted something about him wanting to play the game and everything. And then the fact that Reddit was able to push it, and then us as the developers were able to push it on our end to be like, hey, like we should get this, like figure out a way to get this guy to like play the game. And then like Noel and one of the senior producers literally
Mhm.
flew out to his house, brought the game, and let him play the entire demo.
That's fucking
Then like he got his gun in the game. Like it's really nice that like just like the small gun. Like I don't know if his family knows about it, or like, but if his friends do. But I mean, if they do, like it's sort of like being like memorialized in a game, like being able to help like friends and family in that way. It's really cool.
No,
It's
I love that because two does that with Mike, and that was so. When I remember when I found it out, I was googling achievements, and I was like, "Who is this Mike? Why has he never appeared?" Like years ago, right? And so I
mhm,
Google and find the story of getting that in there, and it's something that studios don't have to do, and a lot of companies don't do that, and it's such then a labor of love to go not only put that love for someone in there and like let that memorialization happen and have that tribute to your friends, but then you know actually like giving it weight in the story. Like you're getting a gun from it, and then the achievement. If people are achievement hunting, they're required to find it, and it's not just
mhm.
buried in the game somewhere. It's something that is there as such a genuine salute. I feel there's no way to twist that into be you know malicious, like just a money grab or something like that. Like that is truly just a pure sentiment of wanting to honor that, and not a lot of games will do that.
Yeah. It's why I love Gearbox. Like I know online people hate on Gearbox a
People hate on
lot.
everything. They hate on everything.
But like just no like being inside the company and knowing that everyone here, like, yes, on the internet people think we're out to destroy franchises, like when we bought Risk of Rain.
Yeah.
But like the people actually care. Like everyone at the company really does care. People like Randy care. Randy really cares. Like
The few times I've met Randy in passing, he does seem to genuinely love Gearbox and love these games and care about them.
like I was honestly surprised at like when I first like met Randy and first talked with him, I was honestly surprised at like how genuinely nice of a guy he is for being like for leading this company. Like we're 25 years old. He's been leading this company for 25 years, and he genuinely cares about like every employee still. Like I remember one time I was leaving his house for like at a party he attended, and I waved bye to him, and he was talking to this big group of people, like almost 10 people, and he put that group like he would like he was like, oh, I'll be back, and then he came over and talked to me for like 10 to 15 minutes before I left. Like he didn't have to do that. Like at
No.
that time, like I was still this mid-level person. Like I had been there like 4 years, so like it wasn't I wasn't like some like, oh, I've been here 20 years. I was just this random employee, but like he knew me by face. He knew me by face and everything, and we'd interacted before, so he just wanted to like know how I was doing. And like just stuff like that, honestly, like it comes from like every aspect of the studio. Then like going to like COVID and like during Wonderland's development, whenever we would have our like meetings about Wonderlands, and Matt Cox, our creative director, would end the meetings, the very last thing he would always say would be like, hey, like I want to make sure like everyone's mental health is like doing okay. Like if you need time off, take it off. Like if you need a therapist, like please like go see a therapist. Just like I want to make
Yeah.
sure everyone's doing good. And just
That's
stuff like
amazing.
that. Like we work our asses off, and like people view game developers as like evil people sometimes. But like
I
knowing
work in social and I blame social media. That's it.
yeah. But like knowing that like Gearbox really cares about all of its employees is what I love so much about it. It's one of
Honestly,
the biggest selling points.
it's really refreshing hearing like someone talk about their own company that way, because I talk a lot about the fact that I grew up very like my job, my career is like my passion, and that's like where my baby
Hmm.
is, right? And like every movie growing up was like, I remember Devil Wears Prada is one of my most watched kind of like I'm burned out movies background. It's all about yeah, get the career, like whatever. And it's like that's how the happy ending was, right? And so I worked a lot of jobs and gave a lot of myself to them that didn't treat you well and weren't good, and very much like burned me out on the concept of like the fulfillment from that work and that passion of that work, because jobs are jobs, and everyone's like, oh, they'll replace you. And so to find somewhere that like you've been there for years and to have that opinion about it and be able, like, you clearly are sincere when you talk about it. And I think it's easy for people to judge on the outside a lot of stuff because clearly they don't see what's going on. It's easy to have a scapegoat, and everyone wants to be armchair anything. And it's, you know, people want to be right. And I think that's a flaw of all of us. But no, people call me a shill, and I'm like, absolutely. I would love to be paid to tell you I'm excited for the Borderlands movie. I'm just excited for the Borderlands movie. This is unpaid simping. I don't know what you want from me. I'm just excited. All I want is a fun movie. That's all I want. I'm not expecting, you know, any Oscar, because it's Borderlands. It's supposed to be fun. Like, what are we going for here? And so it's just like people. I feel like it's easier to think about like, oh, this is how I would do a thing, and this is clearly how they should have done it. Like when people go, oh, they should have done it in this engine and be fine. I'm like, clearly people don't know what they're talking about. It's not part of it. And so the fact that all that's going on, like I always come back to when, because we talk a lot about it in like my chats and stuff like that, where it's just like game devs, like no one sets out to make a bad game. Everyone wants to do good at what they're doing, and something like game development requires so much time and like part of you. Like it's brutal, and it's any type of passion project you're bringing to life, movie, TV show, game, album, like anything that has that art element, especially with a technical element, especially with the red tape of like being a big company and everything, like it requires so much dedication. And the amount of people I do know who work on these games, like even just in passing, who genuinely are rooting and loving these games and wanting to improve them, is like the games are going to evolve, and they're going to be something we don't always recognize or try new things and whatever, and that's good. Like that's good for everyone. And I'm so excited that it is such a team that really loves these games, no matter what the internet wants to say about it. Like it's no, but I drag people all the time because if you go back to the message boards of, you know, Borderlands 2, basically people are mad that Roland is so serious in Borderlands 2 because in 1 he was funny and it was all this, he was the comic relief, and so he's so stoic and, you know, whatever. And now people are mad about the opposite, where it's like, oh, Kevin Hart's funny, Roland's supposed to be stoic, this is never gonna work. And I'm like, the easy way to look at something like typecast, like this is what a studio has always done before, this is what an actor's always done before, is so limiting. And that's the thing, I don't think Borderlands 3 and the massive amount of content we did get from that, you know, with the events alone, but like arms race and all these ways that they took these big swings, we never would have gone if we just say like, well, this is what we've always done and how we've always done it. And so I'm genuinely excited when we get stuff, even if it's stuff that isn't my favorite like part of the franchise that comes out. I'm like, I like seeing new elements of it come out because it means we're getting new things and we're trying new things and finding that like magic. Like Resident Evil 4 never would have happened without Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, and not all of those are perfect. Like there are endearing things about it, but you then have a game that's one of the most beloved games in that genre that's been remade more times than almost any game. It's just always interesting for me because Borderlands does feel so niche in the scheme of like video games, because so many people, like I'll have repairmen come to my house and they're like, oh, you play video games, like what do you play? And I'm always like, oh, do you know a game called Borderlands? And they're like, no. And I'm like, really? Like it shocks me when I meet people who haven't experienced this yet. And because it is so massive and such a small community. And
when I look at Borderlands, I'm like, we make a pretty small game. Like it's not Call of Duty. Like everyone and their mom knows Call of Duty, but then I'm always reminded, like, oh, Borderlands really is one of the top selling franchises of like all time in video games. I'm always surprised. Like let me see. I'm on the Wikipedia page for it. 85 million copies. I don't know when that was last updated. It's probably more than that by now. But the fact that like the series has sold 85 million copies is just like, it's mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
The fact that like me as at the time I was 22 years old when I joined Gearbox, that a 22-year-old was able to join this game studio and work on Borderlands 3, which at the time was like one of the most like wanted games ever.
Oh yeah.
It's cool.
It's really cool, and it's also just like it makes me hopeful. It really does make me hopeful. Like I know so many people who did get their start at Gearbox, even just like contract work or things like that, where that was their first AAA credit. And the interesting thing about Borderlands to me, and I could be totally wrong with the stat that I'm pulling on my ass, but I feel like it's one of the only like still successful, not like battle pass live service, like financially successful franchises at that point, where it's not had to monetize in that same way yet. And I think that's a testament to the games.
It is crazy that in 2022, we were able to put out Wonderlands, which is a couch co-op like slash single player story campaign based game.
Hmm.
And it broke all expectations of what 2K had for that series. Like it is a testament. Like in my like I it's like going back. Well, this is really lame, but going back to what recently Strauss Zelnick of Take Two said about like Gearbox, like he was saying that like Randy and the Gearbox team make new hits and they're able to like make these hits land. And I think it is, especially when it comes to the games that we make, it is special. It takes that deep dedication of love to make a non like a game that isn't a service game and doesn't have a huge battle pass. It takes a lot to make that hit and make people come back and still play it.
And it has such
So,
a specific voice too. And
mhm.
like clearly talk style and everything, but it's very, it's not a Fallout clone. It's not, which, mad love to a lot of my old school games and franchises and stuff like that. But like they're Uncharted clearly feels Tomb Raider, right? Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff that is that I genuinely like. I know people talk about Destiny and like, there are a few other shooters. I can never compare Borderlands truly to another game. Even like the Tales games or Wonderlands, there's nothing that compares in my brain when I try to like give people something. I'm like it is its own vibe, experience, humor, and it doesn't have to all hit. Like the overall the image, like some jokes I forget about. I'm like, oh fuck this part. Like I just like it's so frustrating. I'm just like, okay, yeah, I've heard this a billion times, and I like move on. But I love it. Like I still love it. And there's so few games that really do that to me where it just charms me in such a charms is really the word for it. It's so charming. And
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just unexpected for a little looter shooter that could.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that right now there's 2003 players playing Borderlands 3, and it's 12 a.m. in Texas. It's what 10 p.m. for you. Like, it's wild to me that people still want to play this single player game because the majority of the time they played single player. Like,
Yeah. It's I would love to see the stats like outside of like Steam and everything else and just like how many people tried arms race, how many people tried the takedowns and are still doing the events and all these different elements that were baked in for that in-game replayability. And I laugh
mhm.
at the crazy side of us all the time where it's just like the games in general aren't built for people like us who are breaking these games, playing this single service, like, single player, like not live service game every single day, breaking it, doing the main story, like going on a run.
Yeah.
Like that's not how games are designed for, right? Like it's very much, you have to account for the person who's playing a game for the very first time, who's picking up that game. And we'll find the really creative ways to make this game hard or infuriating or whatever. But the fact that we can keep doing that in this game, like again, it's a 12, like this franchise is old at this point. Like it's an impressive franchise and we're
Yeah.
still doing that. And it I don't know. It's just so special. Like I've been in a lot of fandoms. I love a ton of games. Like I love BioShock, it's one of my favorite games. I love a bunch of horror games. And it's just
Mhm.
like even those, like I want a whole sleeve about BioShock, but it's you don't sit there and replay it in that same way. And Borderlands just is able to scratch a lot of those itches in a lot of ways, and
Yeah.
I'll forget it until I go pick it up again. If I've been in two for a while and go back to TPS, if I pick up Wonderlands and I haven't been a while and I want to try a different class, I'm like I remember how big it really is and how much we're really getting in that, and that requires love. It really does to make something like that and to make it replayable like that.
Hmm.
I love it. I
Oh,
love
for
it so
sure.
much.
Talking about just the franchise as a whole, it reminds me of the first Borderlands product that I worked on and have my credit on, which is the fifth DLC for Borderlands 2,
Yeah,
Commander Lilith, the Fight for
yeah.
Sanctuary, which for
Giraffe
me,
DLC. Did people call it Giraffe DLC, right?
draft.
Giraffe, like the animal giraffe.
Wait, why?
Because Lilith's neck at some points it's just really long and she'll turn and look at you and it's like it stretches at a point in some angles where people have just done so many times. Literally it's shorthanded. If you hear people, and I'm sorry to out us all, if you hear people online talking about Giraffe DLC, they're talking about Commander Lilith.
Huh. You know what? I sort of see the image, the box art we made
Her
for
neck
it.
is
She does have
very
a long
long.
neck.
And there
Huh.
are just some
Well,
parts where she'll be talking. It just, you stare at it and it's longer. And I'm always like, no, we're just too harsh on it. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, what happened?
I've never noticed that before. Look at
Well,
that.
no, share the
Um,
gospel if you want. It's a open secret. But it's when I first got in the gaming space of it, because I always played offline and everything, right? And so someone referred to draft DLC. I'm like, where's our giraffe? Like, I was so confused. But yeah, affectionately giraffe DLC.
That DLC for me, besides being a giraffe, it means so much to me because I played that game my freshman year of college, and my friends all loved it. It's one of the most well-loved games of all times, and like I played it throughout college, and then the fact that it was the first thing I got to work on was Borderlands 2. It was so like it was so surreal being like, okay, like, yeah, like I played this game, I love this game, and now I'm in, like, I have stuff in this game, like I'm part of the story behind it.
No, that's really emotional.
And also just like it was made by Gearbox Quebec, and we are like the Frisco team was really small, so whenever my boss and I were in meetings, it was like my boss and I, a couple producers, Randy Pittsford.
Oh my god, yeah, that's you're in it.
It was like and this was like 6 months after I started, and I would just be like, I would be in a meeting and Randy, our CEO, would be there, and I'd be like, what about this? And he was like, huh, okay, because like everyone at Gearbox has a very like just like say your ideas, like nothing is stupid, like everything is welcome. So like just the fact that I was just this fan that turned developer that was working on Borderlands 2, and I didn't want to tell them that, like, oh, I played this when I was a kid, because I've said that to some Rockstar people, and they're like, I worked on San Andreas, and he said you're in elementary school.
No, yeah, no, I know the vibe.
But like, it's just like, it was so nice, and just having my stuff in BL2 was so cool. I always forget about it, that I'm in BL2, that my work is in BL2, but it's just like,
no, that's it's really emotional. I mean, I even remember just like on like the complete fandom side of it, but like cosplaying Jack, I remember one of the first, it may have been the first actual, it was I think the first actual convention I took that build to. So we were, my girlfriend and I were Handsome Jack and Tyrene, and we were walking around this tiny con, but this con in Los Angeles, and we were going through the artist alley. It was still masked with COVID and everything. And so I had like a branded Hyperion mask we made and like stuff like that. And she had like a COV mask and things. And we're walking by and someone like double takes like, oh, that's really cool. I'm like, oh, thanks, man. Like, thanks, kiddo, kind of walking over. He's like, no, I worked on the games. These are amazing. And then like, and I was like, what? And then like, now I'm friends with him. Like, we ran into another con and recognized him as this whole thing. And, you know, he was former 2K and stuff like that. But it was just like that kind of moment of being like, oh my God, like it's like the Charlie Day meme from Always Sunny, where we just see each other across the restaurant kind of thing. Every time I run into a dev from something I'm cosplaying, it's like you see this like childlike enthusiasm sometimes where it's just like, I worked on this. This is amazing. And it's like that in return. Like I remember the day I was playing Overwatch with my friends one day when I had my phone propped up and I see Randy followed me on Twitter and I just get a notification. I literally just stop and I just like get killed in the game. I'm like, I'm sorry. I thought I just blue screen said To Fall Magic followed me back on Twitter and I haven't posted. It was like the most like, what? You're not supposed to know who I am. Like, this isn't like this. And it's one of those moments where, like I remember we were cosplaying Cyberpunk at PAX West and CD Projekt Red wasn't there. It wasn't anything like that. And we got to the convention so late and we were we hadn't even gotten into the hall yet. We were just taking photos and like adjusting shit in the bathroom, like away from crowds of people. And I was taking a few photos of my girlfriend and suddenly this man beelines it over, just like sprinting to us. And he gives us his last business card and he is the PR at CD Projekt Red, just like gushing. He's like, they're all out there because they're on the tour for this, but like, oh my God, have you seen this? Have you seen the guides? Like, please email me. Like, he was so genuinely just like, this is, oh my God, it's like seeing a dog on hind legs kind of thing. And I love that feeling. And so I know from the writing acting side, when I do get the chance to like be around those things I love, which is why Chad's always all the time is like, oh my God, you're in the next Borderlands. I'm like, absolutely not. I would absolutely not. I'm breaking this down. This is not something I'm bearing the lead on. No, do not. You will break my own heart starting this rumor. No. And it's one of those things where we go back and forth because it is that just like passion when you get to come to something like that. But again, like so much of the Borderlands team are fans of Borderlands. Like that's why they're still loving it. And yeah, I mean, we're all weird. No one. One of my favorite interactions with the actress for Amara. Actually, my girlfriend worked with her at a theater for a show she was in. She was her costumer, and she had never seen the concept art book before. And so when she finally got the courage, like early on in the run, to be like, by the way, I know we're like friends now because we like work together, but I love Borderlands and my girlfriend means Mar and you're really cool kind of thing. And it just became such a joke, like running down the hallway. It's like, only dumb people like Borderlands. And it's like, yeah, I'm dumb. What do you want from like, they're just back and forth. But she had never seen the concept art book. And so when she saw it, she was talking about how important it was to her when she was recording Amara that like she had those like Eastern Indian features and like that hooked nose and stuff like that in her build and like who she was. So seeing all that in the concept art book made her really emotional. And it was one of those moments where it's just like you forget how invested and people are in this process and these things that they bring to life, but then how far removed they really get from the project. And so when people come back, like when I met Troy Baker, I was like, I have some bullshit for each time because I never it was this whole thing. I like did not want to go, and I was in fucking Ellie from Last of Us Glassway. It's the whole thing, and we were gonna do Bioshock, but it's like we needed to go up, and we had just brought Nisha's VA because my girlfriend cosplays Nisha. We had brought her a gift that our friend wanted to give her. And we're like, and she was so excited to see Nisha. She never sees Nisha cosplays. And so we were going back and forth in that. And she was like, you need to go see Troy. You need to go see Damien. Let's go do this thing. And I finally was like, okay, I'm going to bring my Hyperion hat and I'm going to get Troy to sign it and I'll get Damien to sign it and I'll move on with my life. And it'll be the one thing I ever get. And the one thing I'll nerd out and it's fine. And then I'll go back to pretending like I'm not, freaking out. And so we get in line and I'm like, I have some bullshit for you. And he's like, let's see the bullshit. And so we pull up Bioshock Infinite and he's like, oh no, this rocks. Like signs it, whatever. And I go to pull up the hat and he sees the Hyperion hat. He goes, shut the fuck up. Like he literally just starts gushing about Borderlands and how much he fucking loves it. He's like, are you making Damien? You've shown Damien, right? Are you going over there? Like, oh my god, no, Borderlands. And he like, it was just like seeing someone just go back to this like Christmas morning kind of feeling. And it's just, again, he worked on that how long ago at that point, and to have that kind of a reaction to it and love for it is, I don't know. I think it's just such a testament to how rich these games really are. And again, I sound like I'm saying you're jerking him off, but I am. Borderlands knows it's a consensual relationship, but it's yeah.
I feel the same way. Like I love meeting the voice actors, but I also love meeting the cosplayers. Like Mengolu.
Oh yeah,
like, she's a good friend of mine. I met her. Like I was just a fan of her cosplay, and then I was like, hey, like you're a huge fan. Do you want an invite to the BL3 launch party?
Yeah.
So then her and her partner came out for that, and then who else? Jennifer, who used to be Goldvester cosplay.
Yeah.
Me and my coworkers hung out with her at the Wonderlands launch party because she came out alone. So we were like, yeah, just hang out with us. And she was in her cosplay. And it's cool being able to meet the fans that like, especially the cosplayers who bring the characters to life, because like it's Borderlands, like it's so cartoony, it's so out of this world, and the fact that people are able to make like 1-to-1 replicas of it, and I'm always just like amazed.
One of my most embarrassing, one of them, it's not my most embarrassing. I just had the moment where I was like, I am an adult. I pay taxes. I am getting into Handsome Jack at 3 a.m. in my bathroom to film TikToks. Okay. Like kind of one of these moments, but I was doing his makeup one day and I normally don't pull up a reference photo because I just have his face memorized. If I'm doing Athena or someone, like I will still pull it up because I'll like change a little bit, but I am a sucker. I love when cosplayers will take something and make it their own. Like I think it's the coolest thing in the world. My brain is a sucker for that one-on-one exact. Like I'm like, I need that chin, baby. Do I need a chin implant to get that Handsome Jack chin? Let's go, kind of thing. And I remember one day I was like, let me just pull a fit. It's been a while. Let me like see if I want to like place these lines differently because it's really easy to like overdo one or the other, and how do I want to do it? And I noticed after years he has like clamps on the corner of his inside of his eye, and I've never not been able to draw this now. And I don't see other Jacks do it, but the moment I point them out to people, they can't unsee it. And I'm like, how much have I studied this man's face in this turnaround to see this tiny, tiny little silver clamp on the corner of his eye that I will now in cosplay, I have to draw it in. I literally will sit there and I'll sometimes do it white, but I always outline in black, and I'll usually go back and make it silver because it'll drive me insane to try to match his other face pieces. And I'm like, this is insanity. Why is this what my brain is now fixated on? If this whole bringing this to life, no one is going to notice if I don't have these inner eye clamps. I'm like, but it's going to be wrong. It's going to be wrong.
Yeah.
I love it. It's absurd. Okay, I know it's getting late, so I would love to ask you top 5 games. Not best, not favorite, whatever it means to you, but like I try to explain it to people, like if you had to make a time capsule of like 5 games for someone to discover what video games were, what 5 games would you put in there?
RuneScape for sure, because I feel like it's such an iconic game. Sid Meier's Civilization 5 because that game is literally crack. Oh, I
I
love
love
that.
that. I've never actually played it. I fucking never played it, but I've heard most people will describe it like a drug if they are into it, honestly.
Quick side note before I get back to it. I was playing a multiplayer game. I think we were like 16 hours in on a Sunday. And out of nowhere, my roommate gets everyone else, all of my other friends in the game, to attack me and destroy me. So my response is I unplugged the router because it was in my closet.
Hell yeah.
And now every time they're like, Rob, are you gonna touch the router? I'm like, no, I just want to play Civ 5. And they're like, you better not touch the fucking router.
I fucking
What
love you.
else?
That's amazing.
This is hard. GTA 5, because even though it's 11 years old at this point, it still stands.
It does.
It's in its own place.
It's an icon of gaming history. Yeah, it's gonna stay there.
I would say Borderlands 2, not because I work at Gearbox, but because it really did, like, I mean, Handsome Jack is one of the most well-known and loved villains in video gaming.
Oh yeah.
I think his writing is just so perfect. Everything about that game is perfect. Well,
yeah.
Not the game. Everything about the writing and how he's a villain is great.
He truly is one of those lightning in a bottle kind of characters.
Mm-hmm. So that's 4. What's the 5th one? I'm scrolling through my Steam library right now, just being like, what do I? It's okay. This is one that I literally just started playing, so I only have 4 hours. But Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch.
Ooh,
I don't know if you've ever played it.
No, I haven't. Tell me more.
It's a JRPG, and all of the animations, all the cinematics in the game were made by Studio Ghibli. So, and just like the way the game plays, like when you move, all of the UI goes away. So like you really forget that you're playing a game. It feels more like just like an interactive movie because it's so beautiful, and like the graphics look like a Ghibli game.
I
like
that.
It is. I'm just still getting into it, like I said, but I love it. It's just so beautiful. It's fun. The music is amazing. Like it's like it has like an orchestral soundtrack. So it's amazing.
I absolutely love that. I'll check it out. It's I love when I get like the random curveball answer like that. Like it's one of my favorite questions to ask devs specifically because they will just suddenly have the most out of pocket. Like, okay, it's 1983. Let's talk. This was like, and they just immediately will dive into like, this is every genre box I have to check, but it'll be one I never expect in there. And so I feel like it's giving me these secret games to really dive into. But mine changes all the time. And people usually panic around number 4 or 5 because it feels, yeah. And that's why I try to be like, it's not favorite, it's not best, it's just vibes. Like what is that? Because I think it really, really shows the just how many people video games really do touch in different ways and how many different types of stories can stick with you. I'll put links in the description. All good.